Welcome back to Streamline Entertainment. It is Marvin speaking. We go into a video by Western Tell, and this isn't just a national security crisis, it's a crisis of trust. Let's get straight into this. I think, again, it's a lot to do with our government.
This isn't just a national security crisis. Thousands of our brave men and women are not because they've lost their will to serve, because they've lost faith in the very government they swore to protect. They see our veterans abandoned. They see woke ideology kept in the ranks. They see leaders who show open disdain, those who serve with honour, courage and distinction. The front line isn't just on the battlefield, it's within our institutions. The betrayal is real, the damage is growing, the silence must end. If those who protect us are walking away, ask yourself, what exactly are they walking away from? Rebuild trust, restore honour, defend those who defend us.
It's crazy because I hear so many stories of so many military, personnel and police walking away from their jobs because it's just too much stress. And I just think that the government are not really helping. They're thinking that there seems to be, a disconnect between the government and people. Before there was a connection there. I'm talking about like over 20 years ago now, there was a connection there, basically. And I think one of the persons that had a connection, especially with the young people, Jeremy Corbyn, even though I know he got hammered out some, time ago because of some of the things he was saying and caught up in. I do understand that. But I think that connection between young and old is gone now, and nobody trusts the government. And I think that's half of it. And this is why I think nobody talks anymore like they used to. At the end of the day, the politicians seem to be in their own bubble and the people seem to be suffering, which is not good enough. Moving on to part two, people, this is why the UK police are failing. And this is Jay Dartmoor, and he's wrote an actual book on basically the police and where it's going wrong. Let's get straight into this.
Officers, constables, you name it, reach out to me and go, listen, police is so fucked. And the issue is, it's not the cops. They're the ones who get dragged through the mud when it comes to me, and the ones that the politicians just love fucking kicking about. It's not the cops, it's not trust me. It's fucking nearly 10 years. It's fucking hard. Shifts are hard. The public treat you like shit. If you get hands on with anybody, you're thinking a PSD, Professor Sands are going to go back. If I make the wrong decision under that amount of stress, I'm going to get sacked. I'm going to get even arrested, prosecuted for just trying to do my job. Yes, they're forced around. You have an establishment of like 5,000-6,000 people. You take 1 in 100 people are a fucking knobhead. There's quite a few people in there. Now, I'm not talking about those cops. Cops that are wrong, they're awful, they need to job. Talk about the everyday officers that try their best every single day, turn up for shifts, miss birthdays, miss holidays, have days off cancelled. When was the last time you did your job and your boss rang you up and said, hi, that day off you've got? Yeah, you're not having it anymore, you need to get into work. Otherwise you're going to be disciplined.
Jesus.
Because we're too short staffed. Like the ordinary public, and I see videos online, people going, oh, that people trying to do, like, we need decent cops. I love that I was a cop. Effort and the issue, what a lot of cops have repeatedly said to me, people who are either direct entries, graduate entries, climb up the ladder, fast track to inspector, not people that have been there and done it on the ground, but the people that essentially just want to climb the ladder, climb the corporate ladder, and sell the soul to the job. And they do not care who they step on, they do not care what policies they bring into themselves, who it hurts.
Yeah, it's about respect. I remember I was an apprentice in a bakery, And it was brilliant because they took me to formats where I felt different formats going through the basically first year, then second and third year. And I felt I learned something. And when I got my qualifications at the end of it, I worked in colleges, restaurants all over London, universities, and it worked for me. But I do find there's a massive disconnect between people in power and as well as the government and what this basically what this Jay's saying about the police force. I believe it. And when you think you're not getting the help or the backup you need, you're not gonna, you're not gonna give 100%. You're not gonna give a shite as much because they're treating you like shite, and you're just going through the motions until you step out and find something else. Do you know what I mean? Find another trade.
A hard job. Really fucking difficult being a Bobby. Real issue. Real issue.
Great.
You are pulling the string. Stamp on the hard working Bobbies. Deal with the people. Deal with the people sitting there. Trying to calm down a victim of serious domestic violence to get them. And it's just all about stuff. They to make really bad decisions based on statistics that benefit somebody above them. And if they refuse, I'm being told cops will get action plans. I'm being told departments in some cases. But basically, trying to do what they're supposed to do and not do what they're not supposed to do. Next time you see a cop out on the streets, just say to him, I hope you're having a
It's a very, very hard job. I don't think the police get the respect in what they do. I think there's too many people who cry victim as well at the end of the day, or looking for claims against the police. I do think a lot of people antagonize sometimes situations to make it benefit them, which is out of order. And I think this is one of the reasons why so many police are leaving. Going to move on to part 3. This is Jessica, part 3, talking about her experience with the police. Let's get straight into this.
A lot of comments on this video asking about my experiences in the police, why it was negative, and why I ended up leaving. It's a very long story, not a very nice story, but I figured I might as well talk about it. It's been something that I wanted to talk about for a while. I've just never really known when the right time to do it would be. But I'm now over a year since I left the police force. So I figured I'll do my best to answer some questions I've been getting. It is going to be a long story. I'm going to try and do it all in one part. If not, I'm going to have to split it into parts because I'm probably going to waffle and get things mixed up, and have to keep pausing and starting again. Because it's not going to be easy for me to explain what happened. Yeah, I'd recommend just scrolling on by if you're not interested. If you are, push and hold for double speed because it's going to be a long one. For a bit of context, I joined the police back in 2014 when I was 21. I joined a force up in the Midlands, which was where I was living at the time. I joined as a special constable just so that I could see what it was like. Yeah, I really, really enjoyed it. Obviously, otherwise I never would have applied full-time. Had no issues with the force I was in. I would have stayed there. However, they had a 5-year recruitment freeze along with a lot of other forces around that time. So 2016, I applied and joined a force down south. Ended up moving across the country for it. It was like a dream come true for me, really. I'd worked really hard to get the job. I was really, really excited. I worked really hard during my 5 months at police college. I'll include some little photos of me during our passing out parade, which was probably one of the best days of my life, which is a bit bittersweet now. But yeah, I got an award for getting the highest exam results, mainly because I just worked my absolute ass off while I was there, because I had a lot of imposter syndrome, if you know, you know. But yeah, passed out from the college start of 2017. Joined a response team, obviously, and went from there. Really have any issues. The team I joined wasn't that inviting at first, but after a couple of months, well, about 8 months of being there was a big shake up in the organisation, and a lot of people who got on my team got moved elsewhere. So it ended up being a really nice environment, a nice place to work. I loved the job. The workload was difficult. The things we saw were difficult. The days were long, but I loved all of that. And I'll just say, actually, that the job itself was never an issue. It was never a reason why I left. Because I think that's a lot of assumption is that, oh, you just couldn't hack it. The job's not for everyone. But I wouldn't say it was a job that wasn't for me. It was the environment that wasn't for me. Anyway. So it was around around the time that the team changed, that an officer from another division was moved to my team because an allegation of... Can I say that? An allegation of SA was made against him by a female officer. It was investigated and he was given a final written warning. Obviously then couldn't work in the same division as her, so he was moved to my team. Initially, he fit into the team really well, seemed like a nice person. He really downplayed what had happened between him and the other officer, which looking back was probably the first red flag. It wasn't until about a year later that he went and essayed me and harassed me for a number of months. Not great. At the time, I was really kind of...
That's absolutely terrible. The guy should have been sacked and should be nowhere near the police force for that. You do hear complaints a lot by female officers on officers that have tried, male officers that have tried it on with them. I mean, I think it does happen a lot. And some of these complaints are not put in by some of these female officers as well. You do get that unless they push to make a report, because sometimes they are said to be lying, or that didn't happen, or they're making something out of nothing, especially if the male's a high-ranking officer as well.
In denial, really blaming myself. Didn't know what to do, didn't want to talk to anyone about it, so I kept it to myself, which, again, shouldn't have, but a lot of victims will keep things to themselves while they process it and come out at a later stage. It wasn't until it really started affecting my mental health that I spoke up about it. And this is kind of where things went wrong. Ended up having pretty big mental breakdown, had a couple of months of work, made the allegation to senior officers on my team, and let's just say it wasn't handled in the way it should have been handled. I got a lot of comments such as, he's a really nice guy, we've known him for a long time, he really cares for you. My favourite was, you said no so many times and then change your mind. So now that you're saying no again, of course he's going to harass you because he thinks he's going to change your mind. Yeah.
That's absolutely terrible. That is terrible. So they obviously know that this goes on and just go along with it. It's absolutely crazy. Unbelievable. That's not good at all.
Yeah. Just peak victim blaming, really. They actually did absolutely nothing with my allegation, didn't even record it for 7 months. It wasn't until I came back to work and again reiterated that this is why I had a mental breakdown, this happened, this was wrong, that they turned around and said, maybe we should do something about that. Essentially, they just made out that because I was really sad and depressed, they thought I was exaggerating it in my mind, and that because he'd explained it in a completely different way to me, they didn't see anything wrong with what happened. Again, not listening to the victim at all. Unfortunately at that point, because they sat on it for 7 months, the offence of harassment they couldn't do anything for. And instead of recording it as a crime, they just sent the whole thing to PSD to investigate. So at least something was happening. Again, not what they should have done. But he did at that point get moved elsewhere, so at least I didn't have to see him while it was being investigated. It took them another year to investigate it and come to a conclusion. It went to a misconduct hearing. He was quite rightfully dismissed without notice and put on the police bar list. So that was a massive relief for me, just knowing that he'd been found guilty. Yeah.
God, he should have been dismissed a long time ago. I bet if you look back at this guy's history, it speaks for itself, and I don't think it's good. Do you know what I mean? I just think they kept on fobbing him off to other forces and hope that he wouldn't do it again. That's terrible. That's terrible.
Sorry, I forgot to add that a couple of weeks before the hearing, I actually had a meeting with a chief inspector, which I thought was going to be, you know, a lovely little back to work meeting, like, how are you doing, how are you feeling, blah 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 blah. No, it just turned into a pretty much bullying session. I was in there for about 20 minutes with this chief inspector just berating me time and time again. Essentially compared me to someone with one leg and saying we wouldn't employ someone with one leg, so why would we employ you with your mental health issues?
My God.
He said that if the general public knew the amount of sick leave I'd had, bear in mind the amount of sick leave I had was because they were forcing me to go off sick. It wasn't my choice to go on sick leave. I wanted to be at work. They wouldn't let me be at work, which is a whole other issue as to whether that was right or not. And yeah, their mishandling of my allegation was why I was so unwell. Yeah, he said the general public would be ashamed. The amount of money they spent on me when they could have spent it on resources. Fair enough, but is that the thing you say to someone? No. Yeah, this whole meeting was it was horrendous. I walked out of it in absolute tears, just thinking, what the hell just happened? You know, my ability to be a police officer never been questioned. I was good at my job. Yeah, so that was not fun. Luckily, I knew that there were officers ranks above him that had a completely different opinion of me and the whole situation, but yeah, that wasn't nice. Don't know how I rambled so much. We're already at 8 minutes. What else happened during that time? I think I'm actually going to have to end this here and do a part 2. Really, really sorry, but I rambled too much. Stick around because it gets more interesting.
Wow. She's sort of been through hell and back there. That's such a shame what she's actually gone through. She seems a lot happier now she's out in the police force. And like I said, someone in the chat says, I was a scapegoat and bullied by the force. They gave me misconduct regulations and everything for just reporting bullying and for pulling them up on misogyny and discriminatory behaviours. Yeah, I'm not very, but Jesse, Annika, great that you came out and you told your story. Murphy Boy says exactly the same to me, except I had to move department and was punished for not reporting it sooner. He had previous for it, final written warning issued less than 6 months later, investigated again for doing the same thing to another female, finally dismissed, but they allowed him to resign instead. Without previously knowing all this highlights even more so why you should be brave and so strong. I'm so proud of you, friend. Done 30 years, but wouldn't do it again, knowing what I know. Wow. I think there's sometimes a lot of bullying and inequality in the police force, which should be flagged and put up there. Obviously, this, WPC was a good officer, but like I said, she was taken for an idiot, should I say, and her claims that she was being harassed and essayed wasn't taken seriously. And this guy, obviously, that done this to her, should never have been anywhere near a police force or, have a badge, should I say. That's completely out of order. He should have been sacked previous to what he'd done before. He's probably got a track record of it as well. So what are other people saying? I was bullied out of the police force because I was good at my job and I was popular with the public, but I reported racial abuse by a female PC against me, and that was the start of the bullying to get rid of me. Wow. It's wild what goes on in the police. I served in the front line in the Midlands for 20 years and left with PTSD and no support. The police mental health support is a horrific joke. So sorry you went through this. Yeah, police are so corrupt they don't care about victims. No, this is mad. So sorry you went through this. Did you take them to the employment tribunal? I'm currently representing my wife through ET against a police force. Hope you're healing. But there's so many that they're a powerful organisation at the end of this. And sometimes if you go against them, it could affect your job later on and nobody's going to like you at the end of the day because technically you've grassed them up. That's the way they're seeing it, but it's sick what she went through. I'm so sorry you have been going through this. They treated you disgustingly. You were so brave for sharing this and continue. I'm so glad you have found some happiness in a new job. Sending lots of love to you. Yeah, the police force is run on corruption, says Jazz. Yeah, interesting stuff. Let me know what you think, people. I'll do the part 2 probably tomorrow. Don't forget to subscribe to Streamlight Entertainment and follow the channel. Thank you.